Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jeff Rumberg. I'm a managing partner with MetricNet, and I will be one of your co-hosts for today's webcast on chat. I want to welcome all of you and thank you for participating in this webcast today. For those who have been on our webcasts in the past, you will notice something very different about today's webcast. Specifically, you will notice that this webcast is co-branded to indicate that it is being co-presented by MetricNet and Bomgar. This marks the second time that MetricNet and Bomgar have done a joint webcast, and I personally am very proud and excited to be presenting with Bomgar today. Now, before we get started, I have just a few administrative announcements to make. During today's webcast, all of you will be in listen-only mode. However, if you have any questions during the webcast, you can type them in the dialog box that appears in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, and we will address those questions at the end of our webcast. This particular webcast usually lasts a little more than an hour. So for those who have commitments later in the day, we should be wrapped up a little bit after 3 o'clock Eastern Time. One final note, and this is particularly important for those who wish to receive a copy of today's presentation. When you exit the webcast, a brief survey will pop up on your screen. Please be aware that only those who complete the survey will receive a copy of today's presentation. This survey gives us valuable feedback on the webcast. It's only 3 questions long, and it takes less than 10 seconds to complete. So if you'd do us a favor and answer that survey at the end of the webcast, I'd be very grateful. And in return for that courtesy, we will send you a copy of today's presentation. Now at this time, I would like to introduce my co-presenter, Greg Cowart. Greg is a business solutions manager at Bomgar. As many of you undoubtedly know, Bomgar provides remote support solutions to easily and securely support computing systems and mobile devices. In the industry, this is commonly referred to as remote control. The company's appliance-based products help more than 7,600 organizations worldwide improve technical support, efficiency, and performance by enabling them to securely support nearly any device or system anywhere in the world, including Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS, Android, BlackBerry, and more. So without any further delay, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Greg and let him begin our discussion today on the key success factors for chat implementation. So Greg, take it away.
All right. Thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you, everybody, and welcome to the webcast. So let's talk about chat. So the first thing I want to talk about is the benefits of chat support. You know, some of you may know these, some of you may not, but let's go ahead and get into these. So the first thing is your customers can get support without being tied to a phone. They're able to multitask. In this busy world, you know, I can't tell you the number of times where I don't want to pick up the phone and deal with a customer service rep, but I can get on my iPhone and I can chat. That's a huge relief for me, and that's a huge relief for many of the customers out there. And chat allows you to take advantage of that and give your customers additional ways to reach you. You can also take advantage of chat and gain scale and decrease costs by using concurrent sessions. When I say concurrent sessions, I mean exactly what it sounds like. You're going away from the one-to-one relationship of a phone to a one-to-many relationship of chat. Agents are able to go through and use automation, which is also going to reduce their workload. And when I talk about automation, I'm talking about the use of canned messaging. So if you have a message or a phrase that is used often in your support organization, you're able to script it, and agents are able to hit that with one button. We're talking about scripting. If you have a process, say you have a 10-step process where the customer is going to need to go through several steps to get a resolution, you can script that out with some chat tools, and that will allow the agent to, again, with one button, go through and fix the issue with a click of a button, saving yourself valuable time. And also, some of these tools will even actually document that was done so that you don't have to type that out in your notes later on. And finally, looking at integration to your self-help portal, your knowledge base, CRMs like Salesforce or ServiceNow. These can actually take notes and put them in there again so that your agents don't have to take those notes themselves. Again, reducing workload and saving yourself time. One of the other benefits of chat that it kind of gets missed a lot is collaboration. And by collaboration, we're talking about many agents swarming to one customer. Now, this may sound inefficient, but actually it's very efficient. What we're talking about here is, say I have an agent that is an expert in Microsoft Outlook, and I have another agent who's not, but is handling a customer that has an Outlook issue. The agent that's an expert in Outlook can be handling 2 issues with customers and helping his partner who's not an Outlook expert. That's collaboration, allowing the first agent to resolve the issue the first time without having to transfer it to an additional agent. He just brings the other agent in and asks for help. And these are some of the key benefits that you see in chat support that you just can't get with phone support. What does this lead to? This leads to some amazing results that you can get. The results that you see on the screen here are not all from one specific customer, but they are all results that we've seen from customers that we've worked with. Take a look at the cost savings. That's one of the big ones that we talk about when we talk about chat, and that again you get the scale from adding concurrent sessions and collaboration. You can save money there, but also just the cost of the channel itself. If you look at this slide from HDI's 2013 Practice and Salary Report, you can see that the phone cost is $17 per ticket by channel, and chat is $12 per ticket. What this means, if you handle 10,000 contacts per month, and if you can move 25% of your volume from phone to chat, that would save you $180,000 annually. Now, I know many organizations take a lot more contacts than 10,000 a month. I just kind of wanted to use that as a number to give you a baseline of how that looks. So what's the issue? Why does chat fail? One of the biggest things that we've seen when I go to customer sites is that there's a lack of commitment. And what I mean by that is organizations are afraid to turn chat on and pull resources from the phone when they're already short-staffed on the phone and put them on another channel that's just going to further degrade their phone service levels. And while that is a concern, I would tell you that that's not necessarily the way I would look at it. Eventually, and it is going to take time. Your phone service levels probably will degrade for a little while until you get the word out and customers realize that they can get chat support faster than they can get the phone. That's one of the big keys, making sure that they can get to the agent on the chat fast. If they do, they'll continue to use that channel, and you've got a new customer in that channel that probably won't go back to phone if you continue to keep the service levels up in chat. Other things that we see, not implementing chat where the customers need it. Put the chat program where customers can get to it easily, on your portals, on their web pages, in their applications that they're using. Make sure that you market the program. Put it in your IVR. Make sure that they know where it is, and they know how to get to it, and they know that it's fast. So what we're going to do throughout this presentation is kind of go through and talk about some of those best practices that Jeff and I have seen, and give you guys some stories and ideas on how you can better implement chat, and you can contact us after the program if you are interested in learning more about what we can do for you. All right, so Jeff, we've got our first polling question.
Yep, here is the first polling question. We're asking all of you that are listening into our webcast today to describe the maturity of your chat initiative. And there are 5 choices here. You're not using chat, or you're looking to implement chat soon. You're in the process of implementing. You have implemented, but it could be better. Or lastly, you have implemented and it is successful. Greg, it looks like you're going to have to give me control.
Okay.
I can do that from my screen.
Okay.
So we're on the polling question right here. Let me go ahead and open that poll again, because I don't think they were able to see it when you had control of the screen. So here we go. Yep. Okay, please describe your chat initiative. We would ask all of you to weigh in on this. And while you're doing that, let me just welcome all of you. We've got a great audience today, representing more than 30 countries worldwide. Many of you have been on prior webcasts with MetricNet. Some of you have not. So I just want to welcome all of you, particularly those who may be dialing in the middle of the night your time from Australia or Japan or Singapore, or even in Eastern Europe. So Don Coder, thanks. And I'm just calling these names out at random, just flipping through the list of people that are on. Mark Kovacs, great to see you here. Rick Brown, thanks for joining us today. Great to see you here. Sarah Lish, oh, great. Sarah, good to see you. Serena Carbone. Okay, almost 90% of you have voted on this poll, so I'm going to go ahead and close that down and then share the results with you. And here's the results of this first poll. And again, the poll is to please describe your chat initiative. Now, about a third of you, 30%, are not currently using chat. 29%, just under 30%, are looking to implement chat soon. Another 17% are in the process of implementing chat. And then 23%, about a fourth of you, have implemented, but you feel like your chat could be doing a better job. And then 8% of you have implemented chat and find that chat is successful, or you believe that your implementation has been successful. And as much as anything else, today's webcast is about helping you make this migration as efficiently and as quickly as you possibly can. That is going from either having no chat channel whatsoever or having perhaps an immature chat capability and moving in the direction of a mature chat capability, meaning that every user who wants to use chat for their technical service and support can use chat with your organization for technical service and support, and they find it a desirable channel and at least as effective as the live voice channel. So again, the results are 30% of you not currently using chat, 29% looking to implement soon, 17% in the process of implementing, 23% have implemented, but it could be better, and then 8% have implemented, and it is successful. So again, what we want to try and help you do is make this evolution through the chat process from having no chat channel potentially to having a mature chat channel. We want to help you make that as efficiently and as effectively as you possibly can. So I'm going to go ahead and close that down. I'm going to turn it back over to Greg, and he's going to continue to guide us through today's webcast.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. So the first process we want to talk about is developing the implementation plan. The first thing I'm going to tell you is that implementing chat is not just flipping on a switch. You're not just adding new technology. This is a completely new line of business. It's a completely new line of support. You're going to need to look at, it's going to have its own requirements. It's going to have its own goals. It's going to have its own challenges. It's going to require new business processes, new technologies, hiring profiles, training and forecasting, reporting. These are just a few things that you really need to consider. We talk about three things: people, processes, and technology. When you're implementing chat, you've got to look at all of these areas and make sure that you have a plan that addresses all of them so that you're going to be successful when you launch it. You want to make sure you set your goals, understand what your goals are for chat. Are you looking to do the Novell model, which we'll talk about later, and implement almost 100% chat and just completely shut off your phone system? Are you looking to do like are you looking to move 25% just to supplement your headcount needs and the budget? You really need to understand what your goals are for chat. Once you do that, you can set some targets, and you can set some milestones for checking those targets. Go back and address the plan as needed if you're not meeting those targets, or if you're exceeding those targets, you can adjust and maybe get more aggressive. But the key is to start with a full plan and understand all of the areas that chat is going to impact and how you're going to address those. All right, number two, you identify the opportunity. The first step, I would say, before implementing a plan is to understand how much volume are you going to try to drive to chat initially. This could be a part of the 6-month plan that you want to get 20% of your volume moved over to chat. Well, where I'm going to start with that is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a detailed call driver analysis and look for what's the low-hanging fruit. What can I move easily to chat with minimal impact to my customer base and to my representatives? Email issues, as you can see in this one. So that's a big hit. In this chart here, you can see there's a lot of them. Maybe that's a good candidate for moving to chat. Maybe it's not. It's going to depend on your specific organization and your specific call types. But I would recommend doing a call driver analysis and figure out what's best to move. I mentioned Novell a minute ago. Novell had an interesting problem. They were going from a premium paid support model, and they had to go back and add in everybody and get rid of the pay model. They anticipated that this was going to increase their ticket volume by 25%. Novell supports about 50,000 customers in 43 countries, and they have about 300 remote support reps. So an increase of 25% in tickets is going to be a significant amount. So Novell got creative and decided that they were going to just completely remove phone support as an option, since it was now moving from a paid model to a free model, and implemented chat. The results that Novell got were astounding. They were able to improve their staff productivity by 30%. They were able to cut the cost of tickets in half, all while improving their customer satisfaction by 15%. So just to give you just an idea of what's capable of by implementing chat, but you have to understand what you want to move, what your goals are, and understand that. Once you know how much volume you plan to move, at least initially, we want you to look at and determine the requirements for your staffing. How many agents are you going to need? Are you a 24/7 site? Are you a 9 to 5, 5 days a week? You need to understand that and what those staffing models look like. You need to understand the hiring and training and making sure that those match. And then communication planning. How are you going to communicate this new program to your customers? Like I mentioned on the previous slide, you need to set milestones and use checkpoints to view progress and evaluate your strategy. I would set checkpoints maybe every 6 weeks or so just to see how you're doing and readjust as necessary. All right, number 3 in our best practices is session initiation and routing. So what I'm talking about here is you want to give your customers more ways to reach you. How do customers reach you today? Do they just pick up the phone? Do they have your phone number memorized? Do they go to a website and there's a landing page that has your information on it? If so, that's a great place to put a routing button to chat. If you have a support portal, they can fill out a form there that will actually help eliminate triage steps later on and get more information to the agent initially. If there's a self-help center, like a knowledge base, if they're on a knowledge base article and they're sitting there for a little while, you can have chat pop up there and get, hey, do you need help with this? If it's an internal computer system, you can put it on their desktop and have them, have a button there for chat, or you can embed it within, a software application if that's what your company uses. The idea, again, is just to give your customers more ways to reach you and make chat convenient. If you make it easy to find, they're more likely to try it. The second point here is to route customers intelligently. What we mean is we want to get the agents to the customers to the right agent the first time. Bomgar, we like to use what we call skill-based routing. Here you would identify what agents have what skill sets in your organization and make sure that when customers go to like a self-help portal and they select an issue type, that it's going to automatically route them to an agent with that specific skill set, either as a primary or a secondary skill. You would use a skill matrix to design this type of routing. The main point here is that if you get the agent to the customer to the right agent the first time, again, you're giving them a better experience. They're going to be happier with chat than they would be otherwise. All right, let's talk about workforce management. Workforce management for chat is going to be more complicated than it is for the phone. If you're using things like collaboration or concurrent sessions like we talked about earlier. These introduce new variables that are going to require special forecasting, capacity planning, scheduling, and real-time management. Let's talk about concurrent sessions for a minute. Say you anticipate your agents can handle up to 3 chats at a single time. Obviously, I would imagine they're probably not going to handle 3 chats all of the time. So you need to understand, and it may take a little while to get some historical data, but understand what percentage of the time are they going to be on 3 chats, what percentage of the time are they going to be on 2 chats, what percentage of the time are they going to be on 1 chat. And then you're going to have to build that into your models so that you can accurately forecast how many agents you need at any given 30-minute interval. There are other variables that go into this as well, and we'll talk about those now. So let's talk about average handle time. Just because we do say that you gain efficiency with chat, that doesn't mean average handle time necessarily goes down. Sometimes average handle time will actually go up. The efficiency is gained by adding multiple issues to the rep's workload at the same time. Level of engagement that the rep has is a key input that you're going to have to look at for workforce management for chat. And what we mean by level of engagement is what percentage of that rep's time is he actually engaged with the customer? Is he giving specific instructions and then the customer is taking it and running with those instructions? Or is the agent giving the customer instructions and then having to walk them through those instructions step by step? Understanding the level of engagement that the representative has is going to impact the amount of work that he can do and the number of issues he can handle at one time. Your customer type is another example of an advanced input. Are we talking about front-end consumers that are limited technically, or are we talking about sysadmins who can, you can give them instructions in just a couple words and they know exactly what process to go run themselves? These are just some things to think about as you look at workforce management. and building up your staffing models for a chat program. The fifth best practice is going to be hiring and training. You need to identify the key skills here for a chat agent. We've listed some that we feel are key: experience, their ability to learn, education, keyboarding skills, multitasking skills, and communication skills. Obviously, there are going to be more than this. These are just an example of some that you would use. You need to look at a way to verify that the representatives actually have those skills, and then set performance thresholds so you can identify how they're actually performing in those areas. One thing we would caution you against is assuming that a voice agent equals a good chat agent. These two are not the same. There is going to be a sliver in the middle that they bleed over, and those are going to be universal agents, people who can do either voice or chat. One thing we would caution you against is having them do both at the same time. If you have an agent who's doing a chat and the phone at the same time, the phone agent is going to take priority, or the phone representative is going to, the phone customer is going to take priority, and that's going to lead to a negative experience for the chatting customer. That may push them back to another form of support, and they won't come back to chat. So you need to be careful of that. I do want to say that keep in mind that this is generally for larger organizations. Small help desks, 5 or 6 agents may not have that luxury, and they may have to just deal with having an agent do chat and phone at the same time. But we would say that in most situations, that's going to be not ideal. All right, Jeff, we're coming up to our next polling question. I am going to turn this back. You want to go ahead and take control?
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Our next polling question has to do with agents, and specifically agents that are specific to, let's see, make sure that I'm showing my screen here. There we go. Okay. Next polling question has to do with agents and whether or not you have agents that are dedicated to chat or agents that are handling both chat and phone calls. And so here's the polling question. Do you have cross-trained agents that handle both chat and voice? You have 4 choices here. Yes, you have agents that handle both. No. Your chat agents handle only chat contacts. The third choice is that you don't have chat agents, and then the final choice is not applicable, presumably because you don't have chat capability yet. So if you would, please weigh in on that. We've already got almost 70% of you have voted. If you get a chance, please weigh in on this. Do you have cross-trained agents that handle both chat and voice calls? Okay, we're up over 80% participation, which is good. I'll give you just another few seconds here to weigh in on this. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close that poll down and share the results with you. And as you can see here, more than a third, 34% of those on today's webcast have agents that handle both voice and chat contacts. 10% have dedicated chat agents that handle only chat contacts. Another 30% do not have chat agents yet, or perhaps you are planning to have chat agents in the future, and then a fourth of you not applicable, presumably, because you're not associated with a support center, or you may just not have moved forward with chat just yet. So a third of you have agents that are handling both voice and chat. And if that's the case, then I'm sure you've experienced what Greg has just mentioned firsthand, which is that a great voice agent does not necessarily make a great chat agent. Conversely, a great chat agent doesn't necessarily make a great voice agent. There is some overlap between those two. The Venn diagram on the prior page showed good chat agent overlapped with good voice agent, and there clearly is some overlap. There are some that are good at both, but it is a unique skill set, or a distinct skill set, I should say. Those that are good at chat are not necessarily good at voice, and vice versa. And so it's important, as Greg pointed out, to recognize that, and if you have a large enough support organization, you might want to consider having dedicated chat agents versus dedicated voice agents. In a smaller organization with smaller scale, you may not have that luxury, and you may have agents that are kind of shifting back and forth between the different channels, handling chat part of the day, handling voice at another part of the day. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close that poll down, and I'm going to turn it back over to Greg, who's going to continue our discussion of success factors in chat implementation.
Thank you, Jeff. And that, the answers to that polling question actually go exactly with what I see in the field when we go to customer sites. So that's good to see that it's not just me when I'm out at sites that, those answers are correct. So we talked about the agents not being necessarily always, good phone agent equaling good voice agent. And some of the reasons for that, you can talk about grammar, spelling, structure, sentence structure. One of the things we see, people talking in text speak, like they're texting their friend. That's a horrible experience for a customer. I can speak firsthand to that when I've been a customer and used chat, and that's one of the things we talk about. So you need to make sure that your chat agents have that skill set and understand when it's appropriate, what abbreviations are appropriate, how do they talk to customers, making sure they have the right voice and tone. They personalize it enough, not overly personalize it, but personalize it enough. They have the right amount of patience when waiting for the customer to respond. A lot of times there is a response time that you have to worry about with coming back from customers, as they are probably multitasking, which is one of the benefits of chat and why they chose to use it. Making sure they set proper expectations when they're giving those things. And then just brevity and staying on point. You don't want to type out a four-page paragraph for the customer. Give them quick, specific instructions and let them go do it. And maintaining focus on that customer and the other customers you're working with. Number 6, reporting and analytics. This is another one that we see a lot of the time get missed, especially we see it on the phone side, but especially on the chat side that we don't even see any metrics at all. Some of the things to keep in mind, first thing is you want to determine your key performance indicators. So there's a couple different things here. There's output metrics and input metrics. Your output metrics are going to measure how you're doing. So that's your service level, that's your handle time, that's your CSAT. Those are the things that you're measuring that you cannot necessarily directly be managed. They are actually consequences of your processes, your systems, and your policies. Your input metrics are actually, they're the primary drivers of your output metrics. So these are where you go to make changes. So if my service level is down, I'm going to look at things like average handle time. I'm going to look at my shrinkage. I'm going to look at my utilization. I'm going to look at my staffing accuracy and make sure that everything is lined up and figure out where the breakdown was that caused service level to go down. Maybe we had a spike in volume. Maybe we had a lot too many meetings scheduled. Maybe we had a lot of agents out sick. You just have to work backwards from the output. So you take the output metric and say service level was bad. Let's go look at the input metrics and see what caused service level to degrade. You need to make sure your targets are appropriate. What is your customer's tolerance for waiting? You can use a scatter plot to abandonment rate and service level here and find out where that breaking point is and set your service level appropriately. After you've set your targets, you need to create a performance dashboard. We've got an image to the right of a sample dashboard. It's got your service level on top with a target of 80% within 60 seconds. You've got your calls offered versus handled and your max wait and average speed of answer. This is, again, just a sample dashboard just to give you a visualization, but making sure that you have a way to visually track how you're performing and performing against your targets. If you're not checking yourself against your targets and the targets aren't right, it's not going to do you much good. Finally, implement management by metrics methodology, and this is, again, using your dashboards to evaluate your performance, evaluate it against your targets, and then making decisions and actions based upon how you're performing against those targets. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff now to dive a little more into more KPIs.
Thanks, Greg. Let me make sure my screen is showing here. There we go.
Oh.
That's okay. I just switched it. Okay. Do you see my screen, Greg?
I can.
Okay. Excellent. Well, any discussion of reporting and analytics has got to include an overview of the key performance indicators associated with chat. What I've shown on this page is a list of what I believe to be the 24 most common KPIs for chat. This is not an all-inclusive list, however. There are literally hundreds of metrics that have been defined for chat, but those that are the most common, the ones that I see most often, are listed on this page. Now, you'll note several things about these metrics. The first thing is that they look a lot like the same metrics you would track for voice, but instead of cost per voice call, you have cost per chat session. You've got cost per minute of chat time, inbound chats per chat technician per month, technician utilization for those who work on chat. Now, we've organized these KPIs into the 6 categories that you can see here. We've got cost metrics, productivity metrics, service level metrics, quality metrics, technician or analyst metrics, and contact handling metrics. Now, the reason we do that is because we like to take a 360-degree view of the organization. We like to look at it from all angles. Being low cost by itself is not enough. You also have to have strong productivity metrics. You've got to have good quality metrics, and so on. Now, where the metrics do diverge, if you will, from typical voice metrics would be in the contact handling metrics. Now, the first one here is much like you would see for a voice metric. We look at inbound handle time. Total handle time includes talk time plus ACW or after call work time plus any hold time during the incident itself. But then they start to get different and unique when we're talking about the chat channel. For example, the percentage of inbound contacts originating in chat. For those of you who have no chat channel, this of course would be 0. And for those like Novell and others who have adopted a chat-only support model, the number is going to be 100%. Now, most organizations are somewhere in between those two extremes. In a moment, I'm going to share some benchmarking data with you, and what you'll see is that the average percentage of contacts that originate in chat globally is only about 11% so far, but that number will grow pretty dramatically. We also look at the percentage of contacts resolved in chat. This will be a smaller number than the second metric. So let's just say, for the sake of the argument, that 30% of your contacts originate in chat. Some number equal to or less than 30% will actually be resolved in chat. There's another metric here called the failover rate from chat to voice. This would be an individual who is involved in a chat session that clicks to talk, for example, and wants to continue the discussion as a live voice call. Sometimes that live voice call will be with the original chat agent. Sometimes it is with an entirely different agent. And there are some peculiarities around that handoff, if you will. But this metric is important, as it suggests when you go from chat to voice, it is considered a bit of a failure. That's why they call it the failover rate, because if somebody starts in one channel, you want to try and conclude the transaction in that channel if you possibly can. So you want the percentage failover rate from chat to voice to be as low as it possibly can be. You're going to be looking at a metric called the average concurrent chat sessions. And what this represents is that if you look at all the chat sessions that an agent handles in a given period of time, let's just say over the course of a day, if the average chat session lasts 10 minutes and the typical agent handles, say, I'll just make up a number, 40 of those over the course of a day, that's 400 minutes of chat, even though some of them may be going on simultaneously. You then divide that by their total time at work to determine the average concurrent chat sessions. Interestingly enough, the number is usually less than 1, but it is usually well in excess of 50%. In other words, the average concurrent chat sessions is usually between 0.5 and 1, meaning that if you take all the chat sessions, you divide it by the time at work, you're less than 100%, but you're well ahead of 50%. Now, that's a very different metric than this last one, which is the maximum concurrent chat sessions, which is usually established by the policy of the organization. Some organizations don't want their agents to handle any more than 2 chats at one time. Some will allow their agents to go up to 4 or even 5 chats at one time, and I have seen agents that are skilled enough to handle 4 or 5 chats at one time, but it is a very difficult skill to master. Generally, the maximum concurrent chat sessions will be at least 2. If you don't allow at least 2 chat sessions to be managed concurrently, you are missing out on some of the cost and efficiency opportunities that chat affords an organization. Because by handling multiple chat sessions at one time, you can make your agents more productive and more efficient than they would otherwise be. Now, when it comes to benchmarking, and I'm going to share some benchmarking data with you in just a few minutes here. Let me just go through very quickly what benchmarking is, and then, as I mentioned, I'm going to share some benchmarking data with you. Benchmarking involves comparing your support organization to a peer group of comparable support organizations. Now, some of our clients will benchmark their entire support, including all their channels, whether it's a web channel, a voice channel, a chat channel, an email channel, or anything else, whereas some will benchmark specific channels, including specifically the chat channel, and they will just benchmark their chat metrics. but you have a lot of flexibility here in terms of what you benchmark. The key point here is that benchmarking involves comparing what you do in your support center and your performance versus a peer group of comparable support centers. Now, the second and more important piece of benchmarking is this. When the peer group is exceeding your performance, if they have a lower cost per chat, a higher number of concurrent chat sessions, a higher first contact chat resolution rate, a higher customer satisfaction in the chat channel, or any other number of gaps that you might identify in your benchmark, you want to understand how those organizations achieve a higher level of performance. Because if you understand how they get there, you can selectively emulate them. You can adopt and adapt your own organization to achieve the same results that they have achieved. Now, given enough time, any organization can improve its performance. But as you probably well know, most improvement initiatives in most organizations tend to be incremental in nature. They are based on trial and error, and the result is that improvement happens at an evolutionary pace. But what I would submit to you is that benchmarking empowers an organization and enables an organization to improve at a revolutionary pace by building upon the proven best practices of the industry's superior performers. And that's the real value of benchmarking. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to improve incrementally through trial and error. You can bypass all that. You can leapfrog ahead of all the trial and error associated with incremental improvement and achieve world-class performance at not an evolutionary pace, but at a revolutionary pace. Now, the other reason I wanted to bring up benchmarking is that we have found in this industry that there is roughly a one-to-one correlation between organizations that we consider to be world-class and organizations that practice benchmarking. Now, we define a world-class support organization as one that meets 4 criteria. The first criteria is that you've got to be in the lowest quartile of all support organizations on cost. So you've got to be low cost. The second is that you've got to be in the highest quartile on customer satisfaction, so high quality. The third and fourth are a little bit more subjective, but the third criteria is that you need to be following industry best practices, and the good news is that the best practices are pretty well defined and documented at this point. In fact, both MetricNet and Bomgar have delivered webcasts in the past on industry best practices for service and support. And the fourth, and perhaps the most subjective of the criteria for being world-class, is that you've got to be adding value on every transaction. You're not just maintaining service levels, you're not just closing out a ticket, but you're actually making the end user more productive. That adds significant value, and you are helping to reduce total cost of ownership within service and support by resolving tickets at the lowest possible level within the organization. So with that definition in mind, I am once again going to be sharing some benchmarking data with you. But before I do that, I'd like to launch our third and fourth polls and the final polls of our webcast today. Those polls are specifically about benchmarking. So let me open up the next poll. And the poll specifically is this: have you benchmarked your chat metrics within the past year? 3 choices here: yes, you have, no, you haven't, or not applicable. Meaning that you probably don't have a chat channel. And while you're answering that, we've already got 50% of the people weighed in. I just want to shout out again to the audience and thank you again for joining our webcast today. We've got a great group of people, and we're just thrilled to have you here today. And again, more than 30 countries represented in today's webcast. So Shelley Morrissey, thanks for joining us. Stephanie Clare, great to have you here. Adam Katz, thanks for joining us. Heather Glanowski, great to see you here. Josh Hartz, good to see you here. A lot of these names I know. Some of you have worked with MetricNet before, and I know many of you are either MetricNet or Bomgar customers, or in some cases both. Okay, almost 90% of you have voted on this, so I'm going to go ahead and share those results for you. Only about 7% of you have benchmarked your chat metrics within the past year. Another 34%, 1/3 roughly, have not benchmarked your chat metrics within the past year, and then 60% answered not applicable. So I'm going to open up the final polling question, and this is related to, if I can find the polls here, this is related to the polling question on, can't seem to find the polls here. Okay, this is related to the last one on benchmarking, And here we go. Here's the final polling question of the day. Do you intend to benchmark your chat metrics in the future? You've got 5 choices here. Do you intend to benchmark your chat metrics in the future? Hey, we're getting good participation. We've got about 50% of you already weighing in on this. And again, as soon as we close this poll down, I'm going to share some chat benchmarking metrics with you. Okay, if you haven't weighed in on this, please do so. I'll give you another 4 or 5 seconds here. Do you intend to benchmark your chat metrics in the future? Okay, let's take a look at the results of that poll. Okay, 11% of you, more than 10%, are planning to benchmark your chat metrics within the next 90 days. 13% of you within the next 6 months, another 20% of you within the next year, 19% of you don't have any plans to benchmark chat at this time, and then 36% answered not applicable. I want to encourage those of you who are planning to move forward with your benchmark to follow through with those plans. I think what you'll find is that benchmarking is not just a way to compare your performance, your chat metrics, to the chat metrics of another organization, whether it be customer sat in the chat channel, the failover rate from chat to voice, the percentage of contacts that originate in chat. It's not just a way to compare, but also to diagnose why your metrics might be better or worse than a benchmarking peer group, and hence identify what you can do going forward to accelerate the adoption of chat and to maximize the retention of those customers who have used your chat channel in the past. Because ultimately you want as many of your customers using this channel as possible. It's a benefit and a convenience for them, and it helps reduce your overall cost per contact. So I'm going to go ahead and close that dialog box down, that poll, and then I'm going to move on and share some chat metrics with you at this time. What I'm showing on this page are the same list of 20-plus metrics that I showed a few pages back. We've got cost metrics, productivity metrics, and all of these are chat-related, service levels, quality metrics, technician metrics, and chat handling metrics. So if we look at the specific key performance indicators, what I've got is cost per inbound chat contact on the first row, which in North America in the first 6 months of 2013, the number was $11.21. You may recall that on an earlier slide, Greg presented the average cost per voice contact at around $17. Now, a fully loaded cost per voice contact is all the way up around $22. But regardless of whether it's $17 or $22, the point is that the cost for an inbound chat is significantly lower than the cost of a voice call. That is one of the primary benefits of adopting the chat channel, is that you get reduced cost. The other primary benefit is that you can get improved customer satisfaction simply by offering channel choice to the customer. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of these metrics look like they have been repurposed, if you will, from voice to chat, and many of them in fact have been. If you look at inbound chats per technician per month, in North America last year, the average chat technician handled about 671 chats per month. On the voice side, this number is only about 400 voice contacts per month. Utilization on average for voice call agents is in the range of 40%. For chat agents, it's 54%, and that's one of the primary reasons you get the better economics here. But when we come down here and we look at the handling metrics, the average chat handle time is almost 13 minutes. That is higher than it would be for a voice-handled call, but that's okay. Many customers still want to use this channel, knowing full well that a chat sometimes takes longer than a voice contact. In North America last year, or for the first 6 months of this year, I should say, the percentage of contacts that originated in chat for technical service and support was about 11%. So 11% of all inbound contacts from chat. This is now the third largest channel behind voice and email. Other channels, of course, include web-submitted tickets. They include walk-ins. They include faxes, and in some cases, tweets and posts on social media sites. The percentage of contacts resolved in chat was 6.6%. So even though 11% originated in chat, only about 7% were resolved in chat. Now, some of the difference between these two, roughly 4 percentage points, 4.3 percentage points, failed over to voice. Some of them just abandoned altogether or were never resolved. Now, if we look at the failover rate, that is, of all the contacts that begin in chat, what percentage of them fail over to voice? Almost a third of them. Now, this could be seen as both a failure and a success. A success because you do want to give, particularly a newly adopted chat customer, an opportunity. You want to give them a security net, if you will, or a safety net so that they can fail over to voice when they want to. The downside is that it indicates that they did not get a successful resolution in the chat channel. So you do want to have a capability to fail over from chat to voice, but typically you want this number to be as low as possible. It does in fact represent, well, as the name suggests, it is a failover. The average concurrent chat sessions, 0.84 or 84%. Now that doesn't mean that they're not handling concurrent chat sessions. Quite the contrary. We have found organizations that are handling as many as 4 or 5, in rare cases, 6 chat sessions at one time. But there are also idle periods where the agents are not handling any chats at all. But on average, when you look at the number of chat sessions they're handling over the course of a day, they're handling a chat session about 84% of the time. On average, the maximum concurrent sessions established by policy within organizations in North America, first half of 2013, was 2.75. Again, some of them go as high as 5 or 6. Very rarely do we see them down at 1 because you kind of defeat the purpose of having the chat channel if you allow no concurrent sessions. Occasionally we'll find an organization that sets the maximum concurrent sessions at 1 when they're just getting up to speed in the chat channel, but typically a mature chat organization will allow their agents to handle somewhere between 2 and 4 concurrent sessions. Now, before I turn the presentation back over to Greg, I just want to point something out that is probably intuitive and maybe quite obvious to some of you, but perhaps not as obvious to some others, and it's that the demographics of your users, your customer base, play a big role in chat trials and chat adoption. Now, here's how to interpret this chart. The age range down here represents, these are 15 to 20-year-olds, this first block of data. These are 20 to 25-year-olds. These are 25 to 30-year-olds, and so on. The reddish bars, or the brick-colored bars, represent the trial rate when presented with an opportunity to chat, and the green bars represent the adoption rate. Now, define what that means in a moment. So for 15 to 20-year-olds, when presented with an opportunity to chat, 60% of them will try that channel. For the 25 to 30-year-olds, when presented with an opportunity to chat, almost 90% will at least try that channel. Now, the adoption rate is defined as using the chat channel 3 consecutive times after the initial trial. That's usually enough time to create a habit and suggest that, yes, they are now loyal to this channel. They will now continue using this channel. The point is that the younger demographic, the so-called millennials, also known as Gen Y, roughly born between 1980 and the early 2000s, like 2003, 2004, they tend to both try and adopt chat at much higher rates than other demographics. But you see that the the trials and adoption rates do start to drop off as you get to the older demographics. And then what we were told by the researchers that put this information together and helped MetricNet compile this data is that when people retire, they have more time and they are willing to try the chat channel when they might not otherwise have tried the chat channel, which is why you get a blip here at the age of 70. That's when a lot of people retire. Sometime between 65 and 75, they retire. They've got more time. They're willing to try the chat channel. But the point is that there's an inevitability sort of suggested by this data, which is that if you don't already have a chat channel, or if you're not yet implementing chat, if you haven't started talking about chat, you might want to start doing so because the demographics are reinforcing the trend towards chat and making it even more pervasive. The use of chat as a primary support channel is only going to increase in the coming years, and if you're not on board, you kind of risk losing your customers, or at the very least, you may be alienating some of those customers who would like to use this channel to interact with you. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to Greg at this point, and Greg is going to talk to us about customer satisfaction and improving the customer experience. And very shortly, what we're going to do is start a Q&A session, and we should be wrapped up here within about the next 10 or 15 minutes.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. That was great information. Next, we're going to talk about the CSAT and quality. And just like you have with your phone organization and your phone reps, you need to have ways to measure both your customer satisfaction of the chat channel and the quality of the experience that you're giving the customer. When we talk about CSAT, at Bomgar, we have 3 metrics that we look at. We look at overall satisfaction, which is your top 2 box on a 5-point scale, so you're very satisfied and you're satisfied. We have your loyal customers, which is your very satisfied box, your top box. And then we have your at-risk, or your bottom box. These are the people that are giving you a 1. They're literally thinking of leaving your organization. We generally don't include 2s in that because if they didn't reach you as a 1, they probably aren't at the point where they're ready to. They're not at risk just yet. They may be close to getting to at risk, but they're not quite there. That's where we put CSAT. So that's really where you want to look at your customer satisfaction. Those 3 metrics are the ones that we find to be key. When we talk about quality, we're talking about specifically whether it's a critical affecting issue or a non-critical affecting issue, and whether it affects the business or whether it affects the customer. These 2 things are key to understanding what you need to do to resolve the issue. If it's a customer-related issue, obviously you want to make sure that that's fixed immediately, as that's going to create poor perception. It's going to affect CSAT, and that's going to drive things like churn and negative interpretations of your business. Non-critical, just annoyances, things that are just nitpicky. That's not necessarily something that is always going to be a first line of a resolution. Soft skills can be considered these things, just little stuff like that. So basically you need to go through and understand whether, and with a quality program, is making sure you bucket these into critical and non-critical, and then whether they're business affecting or customer affecting. And that will help you design a quality program that provides feedback to your team, and not just your agents, but also the business, so development, things like that, and then also making sure that you're impacting the customer experience in a positive way. Jeff mentioned a great thing earlier in the presentation when he said, make sure you're driving value with every interaction, and having a good quality program and measuring your CSAT correctly will allow you to add value at every contact that you have with a customer. The final point in the best practices is developing a communication plan to drive adoption of your product, of the chat program. So first, you need to identify where customers touch your organization. Do you have an IVR? Is it on a sales invoice? Is it in email, text messages, different ways? Any way that the customer touches your organization, make sure that you're using that to communicate that, hey, we have a new plan available, or a new way to reach us available. It's fast. You've got to deliver that compelling message. So it's easier to get to us. You have the ability to multitask. And again, fast, speed. That's the one thing that you can get to an agent immediately. That's one of the things we've seen successful in many organizations is they'll put a message on their IVR. We have a 10-minute hold time currently. However, we have chat agents sitting available right now to help you if you go to www.bomgar.com. That's a very effective way to get the message out there and get them to try chat immediately. The other things we've seen customers do, these are a little more out of the box. We have one customer that's a major hotel provider, and the franchisees pay a fee for support. So what the organization is looking to do is offer rebates when those franchisees go into chat instead of calling in to talk to support. Give them a discount on their support. I mentioned earlier, if customers are going into the knowledge base or they're going to your portal and they're stuck on a page for a while, you see this a lot on sales pages. You can see in the example there's a little pop-up, have questions, how can we help you today? Be proactive with chat. When customers are using your product or they're on your site or they're in your knowledge base, send them a message. Say, hey, is there anything we can help you with? And have agents available right now. Before they pick up that phone to call, proactively try to get them involved with support via chat, and that will help you encourage usage as well. At this point, I am going to turn it back over to Jeff. We're going to give out the contact information and then go over Q&A, I believe. Right, Jeff?
That's exactly right. Let me put my screen up here. There we go. Okay. You can reach MetricNet in the United States at the phone number that is shown on this page. It's 703-992-7559. You can also reach us through our website at MetricNet.com, or you can send us an email at info@MetricNet.com. Now, to reach Bomgar, you can dial again in the United States, Sophie Brown. The phone number is 770-407-1801. You can reach them through their website at Bomgar.com, or you can send an email to sbrown@Bomgar.com. Now, for those of you who have time to stay on for a few more minutes, we will be answering any questions that you typed in during the webcast. And for those who must exit the webcast at this time, I just want to say thank you for attending our session today. I do hope you found it to be informative and insightful. Please remember to complete the brief survey that pops up when you exit the webcast. This is a requirement if you wish to receive a copy of today's presentation. So thank you once again. Let's take a look at the questions we have. It looks like we've got quite a few questions queued up, and I'm just going to manage these on a FIFO basis, first in, first out. So if you've got your question in early, we'll start with that question. And this first question is from Andy. Let me open my dialog box up a little bit more. They've given me what appears to be like 4-point font. So if I'm struggling a little bit, it's because the font is so small. Again, this is from Andy. One thing I'd love to know, are there any published best practices that deal specifically with the risks and benefits of using the same chat system for internal business communication and external customer service and support? So best practices that deal specifically with risks and benefits.
And you can also set things up into teams. So that allows you to segment your results. So for example, if I go to an internal IT page and I hit chat, it's going to go specifically to my internal support desk. I'm going to be able to report on all those metrics separately from an external customer-facing portal. The other part of that is that those portals you can segment the agents so that, again, it's not going into one big pool. You know, the way our structure is set up, you can set it up into, you can even set it up into teams for queues. So if you have a group that handles specifically in IT, they handle networking issues, or they handle password issues, or they handle single sign-on, or whatever the case may be, you can segment teams or just skills so that those are routed specifically to agents. And that's kind of where I talked about at the very beginning, where we have specific routing issues and routing to the right agent. That's exactly what we're talking about. So as long as your program can do that, I don't see any real risks with using the same program. If your program can't do that, I'm going to tell you probably need to find a more robust solution that will allow you to segment both external and internal, and then also segment by queues or by different skill sets. I hope that answers your question, Andy.
Okay, Greg, thanks. The next question is, will we get the presentation sent to us? That's from Jamie, and the answer is yes. Just complete the survey that pops up from GoToWebinar when you exit the webcast, and we will send you a PDF of today's presentation slides. Okay, the next question is from Fernando, and the question is this: is it a good practice to let CSR manage more than one interaction at the same time? And the answer is yes. That's one of the primary benefits of the chat channel, is that good CSRs should be able to manage multiple sessions at one time. As I mentioned earlier, when an organization is new to chat, there are situations where you do limit an agent to just one session at a time so that they can get comfortable delivering support through chat. But as they become more proficient, they should easily be able to handle 2 chats at one time. And ultimately, good agents can handle 3 or even 4 chats at one time. Okay, a question from Wendy. Oh, I'm sorry, Greg, go ahead.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that that's where we talked about having a hiring profile that matches your skill set's requirement. You know, that's exactly one of those things, is making sure they're able to multitask. And we talked about having separate training for chat. So that's where you give them, maybe like Jeff mentioned, a nesting period where they're specifically handling one chat, and then gradually move them up to 2, move them up to 3. So all of that goes into that planning stage where we talked about building a hiring profile, making sure that the agents are skilled properly for chat and not for voice, and then also making sure you have the proper training to help them and aid them in getting up to speed.
Yeah, excellent points. Thanks, Greg. Wendy asked the following question: what is the sample size for today's polling questions? It's a little more than 600. Next question is from Merrick Daniel. Let me see if I can get the whole question here. How do you keep from breaking existing call handling processes in environments where the existing call system does not have a chat integration option and you would like to avoid adding additional headcount? Greg, I'll let you take a crack at that. Let me read the question again, and then we can both weigh in on that. How do you keep from breaking existing call handling processes in environments where the existing call system does not have a chat integration option and you would like to avoid adding additional headcount?
Okay, so I'll try to give a crack at that. And that's exactly kind of what I talked about at the very beginning, is that you almost have to just take the voice practices and processes and completely redesign them. I mean, ultimately, you're going to break them. They're going to be, the processes and practices are probably going to be different for chat. Now, again, you have to kind of look at, like I talked about, making sure that you're picking out the right amount of volume to target. You're taking the right amount of headcount, so making sure you understand what your impacts are going to be to your phone by taking agents away. It is going to degrade service levels for a time. That's probably a given, and you just have to be able to understand what that impact is going to be and explain it, I think, with the long-term goal of the benefits of chat outweighing the